So here at the Alaska Native Heritage Center, when you start out your village site tour, we're going to come out on Lake Tialana, and you're typically going to start at the Dene House. So we are the only statewide cultural center that represents every single culture in Alaska. So it's really important, the work that we do. You will find 6 recreations of our traditional dwelling spaces. And in these homes, you will see artifacts, you'll see tools that we used to use, that we still use today. And you might see different animals as well that we typically will harvest and subsist off of. My name is Peter. I'm Yupik and Sugpiaq. I first started here at the Alaska Native Heritage Center in 2019. The village sites, they are super important. They play a really big part in what we provide. Inside, we provide live demonstrations as well as our more museum-esque exhibits, but out here, this is where you really get to see not only the beauty of our culture, but the beauty of our resources, of our beautiful trees and our plants that surround us, and the beauty of our heritage. These dwellings are recreated from old village sites, and through this, you get to really take a step back in time. You can see exactly how we lived, see the tools we use in our day-to-day life, and it just offers so much more insight than if I were just to tell you what we do. You can really see and feel. We believe the village sites should be hands-on, and that's really what these are. You can touch anything, you can feel anything, whether it's a seal pelt or the harpoons we use to catch a seal. You know, it's important to learn about the past, but it's also important to set up your next generation for success. And through our values as Native people, that is super, super important to continue our lifestyle going. So here in the Sugpiaq Chiklok, you will see many artifacts. Here in this region of Alaska, we were hunters. This is where my dad's side of the family comes from. Typically in your kayak or your kayak, this is where you would do a lot of your hunting through. It is bent wood that is your frame, lashed together, and then typically covered with seal or sea lion or walrus hides to cover it. Our hunters would go out hunting in these, whether that's for a seal or a sea lion or a whale. When hunting, you would use this hunting visor. You'll see it's intricately painted. Seals can actually recognize human faces and they'll typically swim away. So when you wear this, you'd wear it and you'd look down. You would confuse the seal that way. You'll see there's typically a motif of circles right here. This can confuse them thinking it's eyes. A lot of the times you'll see a triangular pattern going along the brim. This can look like teeth, and this is meant to confuse the seal. You'll also see there are adornments of beads. We would add beads or ivory designs or the whiskers of a seal. Typically one will represent a successful catch of a hunter. So the more adorned your cap is, this would show you who is a successful and an unsuccessful hunter. We really want to give as much insight as possible, especially when you're looking at education in the schools. It is not really on par with what we provide here. So we basically give you everything you need to know and more about every single culture, and that's what is super important to our mission. You can see this one, it is also underground, and this is very common in multiple parts of Alaska. To traditionally show where a home was, you needed a marker. Because it was underground, it could look like a small mound or hill. So what the Inupiat would do is they would harvest a bowhead whale, they take the lower jaw bones, and then they would plant them up right next to their homes. So we feature these right here. This is really the biggest landmark, you can say, of the Heritage Center. It not only represents home, it represents community and tradition as well. These are really, really big animals caught up north, and one whale feeds an entire community for months. So it's very vital that they can pull in this whale that weighs tens of thousands of pounds. These are the lower jaw bones of it, so you can see, imagine about 3 of those stacked on top of each other. That's about how big the whales get. So they are really big animals. We use the bones, we use the meat, we use the fat. We really use everything we can to sustain our lifestyle, and we utilize as much that we can get, because if you are throwing stuff away, that's wasting things, and we really believe in only harvesting what you can get. Through these village sites, we offer a lot more than many other places do. You can go to different museums and you can really see everything behind a glass. And the goal of the village sites is to remove that glass. It's able to really see, feel, and get a personal connection to it through your tour guide or your site host. If they are able to even walk away learning one thing, that's a win in our book. So being able to give this opportunity where you're not just reading off a sign and you're actually hearing from one of our around 50 Alaskan youth that we employ in the summertime, it really gives another connection that you're unable to get at most other museums. When you are living this traditional lifestyle, you're only harvesting as much as you need. You're never really over harvesting. And in part of this, you're going to try and utilize as much as you can. Eating the fat and skin of a whale to some might sound gross, but it's really important. You're getting so much more food than what you wouldn't get if you were just to eat the meat. I think the biggest thing for guests to take away is Alaska is so big and so diverse that stereotypes really shouldn't affect your personal view of Alaska Natives. You can travel, 5 hours and you're still in Alaska. And a lot of the times with our European guests, they don't know anything about Alaska Native people. So breaking the stigmas that everyone lives in igloos and everyone rides polar bears to work, this doesn't make any sense. That is really my biggest goal whenever I bring anyone through here, is to understand how smart we are, how resilient we are, and really just how different we are, and the beauty in the differences and the similarities. I really believe in tradition as a way to empower the next generation. We hold certain values to our heart of respect and of sharing and caring. And if we start to take a step back from those values, then that is directly hurting the next generation and the generation after that. We first opened 26 years ago this year. And this lake, it is around a quarter-mile long. And as you walk, you'll go to, first we have the Dene site, then the Yup'ik and Chup'ik site, then the Inupiat and Sivukum Yup'iki site, then the Sugpat site and the Unangak site. And then you have our southeastern site, which has 4 different cultures in one. And as you go by, you will see these traditional homes as a way that they were built. They were built here on site to really give that experience of walking in the same footsteps that our ancestors did. Finally, we have our southeastern clan home. This belongs to the Kharas, Dakhanyu, Shinget, and Tsimshian. So here you can see very, very different to the last regions of Alaska. Here they lived in long homes, long clan homes that would feature an entire clan. So typically you'll see eagle or raven as well as other sub-clans, and this is a clan to show basically who your family is. Here they live in the Tongass rainforest. It is the largest rainforest here in the US, temperate rainforest, and this is where they were really, really rich, you can say. They had access to the ocean and the land. So typically the homes would be built on beaches where they'd have the ocean in front of them and then the woods behind them. So because of this, it wasn't very cold, it didn't snow a lot, they were very, very rich. And in this sense, they were able to really develop an art form. So this is a totem pole here carved by Nathan Jackson. This was carved around 25 years ago. We know it as the wisdom pole. You can see a chief with 3 rings on his hat. Typically, what I was told is that this represents him being a good provider. So when you walk in, you will see a large log with a hole carved into it. Typically, this would be carved like a totem pole, and it can tell the story of the clan of whoever lives in here. You can see it is very small, and that is because in case there is an ambush or anything of the sorts, it can only allow 1 person in at a time. When you walk into the southeastern clan home, you will typically look straight at these house posts here. So these all represent a different culture that come from here. This one is the Tsimshian one, and they represent respect for the environment. At the top, there's eagle and raven, and they represent respect for the sky. There's wolf here on a drum, that represents respect for the land, and killer whale on the bottom as a boat, and that represents respect for the waters. These are the 4 main clans that you can be a part of in this culture. So it not only shows respect to all aspects of the environment, but also to all the clans that are represented by this culture. the things that are really important to me on a tour is when I'm giving a tour and I'm able to be really personable about it. We're able to not only learn about the tradition, but learn about the people that live here today. And we've lived here for so long. We find ways to bridge between the modern life and our traditional life. Anchorage is really a big melting pot of a bunch of different people from all over, whether that's all over Alaska or all over the States or even, different countries.
These village sites offer more than history, they offer perspective. Through storytelling, interaction, and lived knowledge, visitors leave with a deeper understanding of Alaska Native cultures and the people who continue to live them today.